Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. May I ask a rhetorical question? Didn't I give Roger Mudd a heck of a beating? Escorting me to the platform this evening were four very distinguished Missourians who, in a sense, represent a microcosm of my political life. Two of those were in politics when I began my political career. I have reference to Stuart Symington and to Lenore Sullivan, the distinguished congresswoman from St. Louis City. They were two of my heroes, and they are now, and they've done me great honor by participating in the ceremonies. Two others, Congressman Bill Clay and Governor Warren Hernz, began politics. Bill Clay and Warren Hernz and I began our political careers contemporaneously. I'm deeply indebted to them, with a special indebtedness to Governor Hernz, for had he not carried Missouri in 1968 by over 400,000 votes, and had I not been able to cling to his coattails, I would not be here tonight. And one other personal observation I address to the Alabama delegation. I think their act of generosity was the high point and gracious courtesy, a most harmonious action which I gratefully received. And one final personal note that will be understood only by members of my family and by no others. But this speech is dedicated to MDE. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a year of surprises. Most of the delegates in this hall did not expect to be the political pros of 1972. Most of us did not expect to nominate a man who began with only 5% in the polls. Few expected our convention to be orderly and so productive. And surely I did not expect to stand before you tonight as the Democratic nominee for Vice President of the United States. It is thus with deep humility in the face of the responsibility you've asked me to assume, and with profound gratitude to you, the delegates, and of course to Senator McGovern, that I accept your nomination. With God's help and with yours, I commit myself to the difficult task that lies ahead. I accept with confidence because I think all of the surprises of 1972 have shown us something very important about ourselves as Democrats and as Americans. We are learning to live with some of those surprises. We're even learning to like some of them. We're learning to find opportunity in them, not just uncertainty and not just fear. We're learning the importance of bold vision to provide the guidance denied us in these uncertain times. And I sense in this convention that, to our surprise perhaps, we are discovering in the threads of our diversity the very fabric of a strong, united Democratic Party. As I look out across this vast and great hall, I see the future of America building. Truly, this convention represents the best the grassroots of our nation can offer. As this convention has shown, we can meet under one roof, we can meet in peaceful discussion, and we can work together to solve the problems of America. And I ask of these fine delegates, isn't that really enough to carry a new message of hope to the American people? And isn't that enough to win in 1972? My friends, America has been stalled for 4 long years. We've been stalled in a senseless war in Vietnam. We've been stalled economically here at home with millions and millions of Americans idled by needless unemployment. We've been stalled in the desperate fight to save our beleaguered cities. We've been stalled in providing adequate funding for our schools. We've been stalled in the effort to preserve our precious and vanishing environment. And we've been stalled in its deeply felt need to find a new direction for its citizens. From the people who promised to bring us together, we've gotten deception and more distrust. From the people who promised the lift of a driving dream, we have a sodden mound of trampled hopes. And so we have an electorate so jaded by gimmickry that their healthy skepticism about politics, indeed their healthy skepticism about politicians, has escalated into a total lack of confidence in this administration. When George McGovern asked me to be the nominee of the Democratic Party for vice president, he told me what he perceived the office of vice president to be. We know it's the second highest office in the land, and he wanted it to be filled by a person whose objectives are compatible with those of the president himself, but who will not hesitate to make his views known to the president. And most important, it's an office whose occupant must understand and appeal to the highest, not the basest motives of our fellow Americans. Those were the terms of Senator McGovern's fine offer, and those were the terms which I accepted. No man in public life could ask for more, and indeed no political party should accept less. If there's one thing which the present occupant of the White House has made perfectly clear, if there's one thing he has made perfectly clear, it is that he does not share that view of the role of his vice president. And so, tonight, I pledge to you that we will restore the dignity of the office of the vice presidency. It will not be a platform for cheap rhetorical attacks that divide our nation. John Kennedy, whose brother will be with us momentarily, John Kennedy taught us to ask not what our country could do for us, but what we can do for our country. And indeed, what we have learned since then, in one of the hard and bitter lessons of our time, is that there are limits to wit that even a great and mighty nation can do. For 4 years, with cosmetic diversions and callous disregard for the intelligence and the conscience of our citizenry, Richard Nixon has tried to make us forget what our nation should do, and if we are to be true to our heritage, what our nation must do. Ladies and gentlemen, George McGovern offers us the opportunity to return to the principles upon which America was founded, to ask what we can do for one another, and together what we can do for our country and for mankind. In Richard Nixon, we have a president who has traveled to the far reaches of our globe, who tells us that his greatest thrill comes from sending Americans to distant planets, but who has yet to study the mood and the spirit of his own countrymen. We Democrats know that mood, and we know that spirit. We know, ladies and gentlemen, that all is not well. We know that. But it is not because, as some would have us believe, that we Americans have lost our way. All we have lost is the leadership to show us the way. With George McGovern, we will have that leadership. And let us join together then tonight, and let's elect George McGovern President of the United States. Let us work for and vote for Democrats at every office level. Let us campaign in every state and carry the message to every American. And let us so conduct ourselves and conduct our campaign, and indeed, let us conduct our lives, that in later years men may say, 1972 was the year not when America lost its way, but the year when America found its conscience. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Senator Eagleton's speech began with an unusual appeal to Governor Warren Hearns of Missouri, who was dead set against McGovern most of the way, a unity appeal.